167 to 168. For units arrival live advisement, E4 still awaiting more info. The caller is still on the phone with 911. Have no discrep, unknown weapons, unknown injuries. Firearm at this time? Position to 1210 Nelson, 5 Adam. There's a possible firearm at this time. 6 perp in custody. Perp in custody for the 31. Perp in custody.
What's going on, Lenny?
Hey. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. You got a big smile today in your face, man. Something must have happened.
That's yeah. Changing smile.
Let's go, man. And that's awesome, bro. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about today is closing deals, right? Getting paid. And something that a lot of mentors will not bring up. They won't really talk about it because their students don't have success. But in your case, man, you said life-changing smile.
It's life-changing for me, and always wanting to learn how to do a wholesale deal from point A to point Z. You guys are gonna hear me hammering this home, and you're gonna hear this same story over and over again about working with people that just kind of gate kept me from learning the game from point A to point Z. And you know, with my man Ilya here, he's made it happen to the point where the stories that I'm used to hearing when I listen to like Wholesaling Inc. or I listen to YouTube when people talk about wholesaling, I always hear these grand stories about how they closed a deal for 30K or 40K, and you know that just changed their life. But in this circumstance, this deal was a 70K deal.
Oof. Damn. It's a game changer, bro.
Game changer, something that, like I said, you know, sometimes you see these people on YouTube and you hear the podcast, and it almost feels like they're movie stars in a sense, and it doesn't seem like it's reachable. It doesn't seem like it's a reality, because that's kind of what social media does, and that's what YouTube does now. It's like kind of replaces the movies and replaces the TV shows with these personalities that become characters within themselves as a wholesaler or whoever it is that they are as a profession or a professional.
Yeah.
So I just didn't see that happening for me. And this deal, it definitely broke down that barrier in knowing that this game is real. Like this wholesaling situation. Like I left the job, I intended on doing this, but I was still in watches a little bit. I was unsure if I should go full force in wholesaling because of the bad experience that I had in my past. But because of my bad situation, it put me in a tight financial circumstance. And I said, what's going to bring me out of this? Are flipping watches going to bring me out of this circumstance, or is wholesaling? I said, you know what, God, you give me the sign. You tell me what it is that you need me to focus on. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And he said, well, what I felt within my spirit, within the Holy Spirit, was just focus for a certain amount of time strictly on the wholesaling and see what happens. You really focused on watches. You made a couple thousand here and there. You know,
Yep.
I had a shot, and within a month, you know, I made like 3 or 4, like $3,500 to $4,000. Would be just saying, "Oh, I'm gonna focus on watches for a month." Still good, but then
Yeah.
I said, this isn't life changing. You know,
Yeah.
like so. Let's see how life changing this can be with wholesaling. Let's see if what all these other guys are saying can actually happen. And I said, I'm gonna give it my all. And boom, here we are, 70K between Ilya and I. We split that after closing costs and fees that need to be paid out to a real estate agent that actually found a client that was interested in this property. After everything, we got paid $32,000 each.
Yeah.
And who's making $32,000? And I'm not saying that I'm doing this a month, but this is what I plan on being the standard. But who has gotten $32,000 in one shot, unless it was like a retro check, or you sued
Yeah.
somebody, or you hit the lotto. You know,
Exactly. Like
yeah,
as normal like 9 to 5ers, getting big chunks of money like this is unheard of. Like you said, right? A lawsuit or a retro check is like usually the way, right? And it's like when if you hit rock bottom, this business can change your life. Most people, let's say, get out of jail or something happens, right? Like they lost everybody or something happened. They go to work and like, oh, I got to build back up, and it'll work, but it's going to be so slow working a minimum wage job, trying to rebuild slowly. Here, you hit a big grand slam, and it happens more often than you think. People will be like, ah, no, that happens like once every 5 years. It's like, no, it doesn't, man. Like, stop limiting. You know what I mean? The abilities of God. um Lenny and I both are Christians. We believe in God, so God will bless, right? And He will provide.
That's
I've seen it time and time again. So it's like, and I've had times where it's like just like you, like financially strapped, bro. The bank is like negative, like 2 grand. I think the lowest ever went down to like 4 grand, and I was like, Lord, I believe in you. Like, I quit the job. This is it, right? I didn't show any like fear. That's the thing. I wasn't afraid. I said, God, you're gonna provide, and boom, a deal closed. And another time I was negative. I don't know how, somehow, some way, but like I got like a retro check from the IRS. I overpaid my taxes and they sent me like 7 grand or something like that. I was like, whoa. So I was like, God, I know you got my back, so I don't have to doubt you. And right now, what you're talking about too, like that big check, the happy moment, that is the end result, right? And most investors will show you the end result without talking the journey, the path, the steps that were necessary, the hardship and the headaches that we had to deal with in this deal. And there was
oh yeah,
many.
yeah. So I would have to say, I'll get into what the deal consisted of. This is a deal in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I pulled a list. Ilya and I, we actually had a deal last, what was it? It closed in what, October?
Yeah.
In the Triad area. So I think it was in Winston-Salem, or it was in Whitsett, North Carolina, which is a suburb of Greensboro. And from that deal, we made $35,000, and then we
Yeah.
split that. So I said, I know that this market is a good market. I've researched it. I've gotten into Facebook groups. I see a lot of people that are wholesaling in the groups, but I also see a lot of people that are buying in the groups as well. So for me, it was like, let me pull a list of absentee homeowners with high equity and a few other attributes that I don't remember off the top of my head. But the main thing was absentee landlord, high equity. I think I also pulled some with full equity, with
Gotcha.
100% equity. Yeah. And and that was pretty much it, right? I was able to pull that off a deal machine. A lot of people don't know that you could pull that you could pull leads off a deal machine. I pay $100 a month for deal machine, which is an app where you could drive around what's called driving for dollars. Once you land in front of a home that you feel might fit your criteria to cold call, you can mark it in the app and then could send a mailer, or you could save it into your leads. You get the phone number from it, and then you go and cold call them. But in this circumstance, they also have a tool that allows you to pull leads and all of the information, the phone number, the addresses, and the mailing addresses of the owners as well. So I said, let me give this a shot. And I came across how good Deal Machine was as far as pulling leads, not just for doing the driving for dollars, but pulling leads as well by being in a Facebook group devoted to wholesalers. So
Nice.
finding this, it came from my previous trials and tribulations with doing wholesaling in the past, or trying wholesaling in the past. And I said, all right, since I'm going to go all in on this, I'm already paying $100 a month for these leads or for Deal Machine. Let me give it a shot. So I pulled with Deal Machine, you can pull up to 10,000 leads. I pulled 5,000 leads just to give it a shot and figure out if I was pulling it the correct way. And out of those 5,000 leads, they included mailing addresses, but a lot of them were missing phone numbers. So after I filtered everything down to the point where I just pulled a list, or I eliminated the names that didn't have a phone number associated with them, I had about 3,600 leads. So I just got to calling those leads. Very
Wow.
simple. It's just all in Greensboro. And I would say the fourth day that I really took it serious and was like, yo, let me just buckle down and call. I came across a seller that had a fire damaged property. I got on, she picked up the phone and I said, hey, how you doing? My name is Lenny. I went through the whole script and she said, I have a fire damaged property. And when she said that, I'm thinking like, oh, I can't really do anything with a fire damaged property. Like it's like this isn't gonna work. I've dealt with a fire. I've tried to deal with a fire damaged property before, but I didn't have the help. I didn't have the resources. So in any event, I was just like, oh, okay. She was like, yeah, well, and actually we're about to list it with a real estate agent next week. So I'm like, all right, fire damage property. She's gonna list it with a real estate agent next week. Usually in the past when somebody says they're about to list it with a real estate agent, I just let it go because I feel like
Yeah.
they just want to deal with a real estate agent. They don't want to deal with a wholesaler. They don't want to deal with somebody like me, a real estate agent by a brokerage. Their faces all over the place. They probably dealt with them before in the past. So I was just like, but I was hungry. I was hungry. So I took that extra step. And that's when I reached out to my man Ilya here. And I said, hey, I have this fire damaged property. They're looking to list it. She told me that they were going to list it for $70,000 with the realtor. And so that's that. Just keep that in mind. That's another factor. They were going to list it for $70,000 realtor. So I hit up Ilya. I said, listen, I have a fire damaged property. He was in a Christian conference, right? Um, he picked up the phone for me. Thank God. I guess God told him to. And I said, I have this fire damaged property. This woman is about to list it with a realtor. What should I say to her? And he gave me a script on the spot, like within 2 minutes. He said, script. I was like, what the heck? So the script went something like, speak to her, let her know that when it comes down to a realtor, it could take longer. That usually when you list with a realtor, you might list it at $70,000, but people are going to negotiate it down. And also from there, you're not going to get the full $70,000. There's going to be closing costs that are associated with it. Then they got to market it. They got to take, pictures and do whatever.
Commissions and stuff like that. Yeah.
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 And all of that is time consuming and she might have to go back and forth and she might not want to deal with that. And she was like, well, all right. She was like, well, how much are you willing to offer? And I said 40,000. And she was like, all right. And this was on a Friday. She was like, let me talk to my husband and you could call me back on Monday. And I was like, oh crap. It's gonna
Yeah.
be it's the weekend. She's probably gonna talk it over with her husband, call the agent. So, but if you don't make an offer, you just never know. Right.
Exactly.
She said, and actually, let me double back. Once she said that she was willing to sell the property, I actually sent my guy out there. I have boots on the ground that went and took pictures for me. So
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I actually had him go take pictures so that we could take a look at the property, and then we made the offer. Or I made the offer of $40,000. Ilya didn't. Ilya, he threw me to the wolves. He didn't even talk to this lady. He believed in me.
Yeah.
So I did the negotiation process. So I said, listen, based off of what it is that I see here, I'll be willing to offer $40,000. So she said, let me talk to my husband about it. I'll get back to you on Monday. So I called up on Monday and she said my husband would like 50,000. And I said, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. So she was like, all right, well, how about we meet in the middle and we do 45,000.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
she was gonna list it with the realtor for 70,000. And then we got it on the contract for 45,000. So if the realtor was gonna list it for 70,000, we
Yeah.
already knew we already knew that say somebody offered 65, that we already got like 20,000 right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So that's like one objection we had to overcome. Like
yeah,
most people, if they hear realtors involved, they're like, yo, hands off, right? This is a deal that they're about to list 1 week away. And we were able to provide enough benefits working with us, right? Which for them was time and convenience, making it super simple and using logical explanation to be like, well, after the time and convenience, if the realtor takes longer, then you're going to be almost walking away the same. And it sounds like you want to just get this thing done quick. And she's like, yes, right? So that's the first objection. Second is, like you said, it's a fire damage. Like I'm guilty of it too. Before I was like, oh, it's fire damage, man. We're not dealing with it. Now, like whenever I get fire damage properties, like, all right, cool, let's go, right? Because when we're new, we think it's fire damage. It's a lot of damage. Not necessarily. In her case, it was like just one side of the house was damaged. The other side was perfectly and pristine, and also in an amazing neighborhood, right? But we were able to overcome those two objections, and she negotiated with you, and she accepted 45,000, right? So that's $25,000 lower than she was going to get with the realtor.
yes.
And we said, all right, cool. What happened next?
And just so that you can keep in mind, one of the questions that I asked was if she got paid out by the insurance company. So I think that she was very lenient in negotiating and bringing it down because she's already been paid about $260,000 from the insurance company.
Wow.
So if she could get some extra money quickly and not have to deal with the back and forth from a realtor,
Yep.
she was willing to. It was just like, all right, it's just free money. So
Yeah.
there we got it under contract, like I stated, and this is something that I've never dealt with before, which was finding the end buyer, finding somebody that was going to purchase the property or the contract from us. Ilya provided me with a list of cash buyers that I could cold call. So I went about cold calling the list. I called the entire list for the most part, and well, maybe like half of the list. I called like half
Okay.
of the how things will go. And I pulled a few people off of there. Then from there, you informed me to use Craigslist. You said that, people get lucky on Craigslist sometimes. And I
Yeah.
said, all right, let me, I didn't know that people still use Craigslist. So I think I got maybe like one or two people off of there. But once again, I went back to the things that I had been working on beforehand so that when I did get a deal, I would kind of understand how things work or to try to learn more. That I just want to go back to this. It's always important, even when you don't have a deal, to educate yourself, to continue to educate yourself daily in some way, shape, or form, whether it's going through Facebook groups, whether it's going to the, realtor.com, seeing what the houses are going for, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. I was always in those Facebook groups, just seeing how people went about posting, what they were posting and things like that. And I put myself in cash buyer groups and groups that were associated with Greensboro, groups that were associated with North Carolina for wholesaling and for cash buyers. So I already had that in place. So I said, you know what, let me give this, I see people posting garbage in Facebook sometimes, and they might get one or two people that send them their emails. So let me just give this a try. So I posted the property with pictures and video just of the outside. I didn't have anything inside into these cash buyer groups and into these wholesale groups or just real estate investing groups in North Carolina and Greensboro.
Yep.
And
I think I want to jump into that. So before you posted, right? I was like, okay, just know that a lot of these people in there are wholesalers, right? And
yes,
I think since January, I've been on your back too. I was like, bro, just keep building your buyers list. So when you get gold, you could just send it out to them, And you were
right,
doing a lot of research and you were building up buyers. But it's always good to just get more eyes on the deal because then it starts bidding up. And
yeah,
yeah, so that's a good strategy.
it's true. And this was really tested a point where people always said, and I'm not taking anything away from what it is that you're saying, because I do believe that it's essential to reach out to cash buyers to just be ahead of the game.
Oh yeah,
But then also people say that if you have a good deal, the cash buyers are going to flow to you.
of
So
course, of course. That's
yeah,
that's 100% true too. Like When you got a good deal, you're gonna sell it. You're gonna know you have a good deal because you're gonna get a lot of inquiries where you're overwhelmed. You're gonna be hanging up the phone, picking it up again, and that's what happened to you.
Yeah, so onto that, I listed in these Facebook groups, and maybe like the first half hour, I had maybe one or two people in the group um message, not even message me, but they responded back in the group. But then I just started getting DM, like one DM here, one DM there. Is this available? What's the address? And I said, all right, Ilya, I'm starting to get people to reach out to me. Like, what am I saying to them? Like, how do I go about vetting them? And the advice that you gave me was to get their LLC,
Yeah, to overqualify them, right?
qualify them, not
Yeah,
unqualify them. Make sure that they're not wasting our time and we're not
yeah,
wasting their, to get the name of their LLC. And then once I get the name of the LLC, to go into PropStream, excuse me, ask them for 3 or 4 flips that they've done recently, or properties that they worked on recently with the LLC that they own,
yep,
right? Just with the LLC. And then go to PropStream, check the address of that house and see if they were actually the cash buyer
yep,
for those properties. So I have a few people coming in, and I'm asking them, oh, do you have an LLC? Do you have LLC? And out of nowhere, it just became super overwhelming. Like, just the floodgates opened up. Um,
What did I
and
call it? Do you remember what that's called? A feeding frenzy. It's like having a bunch of hungry tigers or lions, right? And you're waving a piece of meat, which is that deal, and they're
yeah,
just going at it.
yeah. So I mean, I couldn't put my phone down. I could not put my phone down because it was message after message after message after message. And I went through the criteria that Ilya asked for, and there was a lot of pushback. There was I'm not gonna say a lot, but maybe it was like 50-50. A lot of people were like, oh, well, why do I have to provide my LLC? That's private. Like, I'm not gonna give you that information. Or um one guy, he was like, oh, check my Facebook page. You can see that I'm an investor. Why would I need to give you that? I said, okay, well, you're gonna miss out on this deal then, right? So I started vetting people that way. And the people that were really serious about the property, they gave it up with no problem. They gave the name of their LLCs, they gave the addresses. And those are the people that I want to deal with. We don't want to deal with the people that are giving the pushback and saying, oh, I'm not giving you that information, because they're going to be a problem during the transaction.
Oh yeah.
So it resulted in having, and I did this maybe like 2 days before taking the listing off of Marketplace. There were 13,000 clicks. 13 clicks
Wow.
that property in Facebook Marketplace. And just to discuss some crap that was going on in between, there was a gentleman that I had spoken to actually when I cold called. He wound up, when I cold called the cash buyers, he wound up being a realtor. And he heard that the property was fire damage and he didn't want to deal with me. But then once I said that it was in Adams Farms, which is a area that people want to live in Greensboro, he was like, oh, I might be interested. So he calls me up a couple of days later and he was like, listen, I have a client that might be interested in the property. And he was like, you sound like you're from New York. And he kind of had like the gift of the gab or whatever the case may be. Yeah, and he's like, you got to understand that, what was he saying? He was like, um, you and I should work together. I'm from New York as well, and you got to understand, like, I know you might want to be a certain place with this property. You might want to be at a certain level, but we could get this closed fast. I could call my client, and we could get this deal done. So I was like, well, what would your offer be? And he was like, well, let me call my client up. So he was like, my offer would be $80,000. So I'm thinking to myself, like, $80,000 for $45,000. Like, that's
Yeah.
that's $5,000. But you said, he was like, no, you know, like I've had a deal that was very similar to this one, and we're gonna get way higher. And you told me that beforehand, actually. You said you want to try to get it up into the 100 range. So I was thinking to myself as I spoke to him, I was like, yeah, we know what it is that we have here, and that's we're not gonna be able to take that. And he was like, well, what if I told you that my deal only lasted for 20, my offer only lasted for 24 hours? And I was like, then that's your problem.
Yeah.
That so
We
it
had to
turns out,
prep you up a little bit because there was a lot of offers coming in, and you and I had to have several conversations where it's like it sounded good. It's like the money's guaranteed right there, but it was like, yo, no, just hold. Yo, just hold, 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 And you're like, but we're gonna make 40 grand here. Like somebody else, I think, offered like 85, and I'm like, hold.
so this same guy, I guess he didn't like the fact that we said that we weren't interested in it. He was very egotistical. So he went and called, he pulled the homeowner's information and he called the homeowner, or so he
Yeah,
thought the homeowner, but he called the homeowner's daughter. And then the homeowner called me and said, Lenny, I didn't know that you were going to be listing this on Facebook. My daughter just got a message, or she just got a call from a guy by the name of Carlos, and I had to explain who this guy was.
oh man,
Luckily, luckily the homeowner was really cool about it, but she was like, um, I didn't know you were going to be listing it there. And I had a problem with the real estate agent that I was supposed to list it with, because I never told her that I was going to go with you as a wholesaler. So now I have a little bit of trouble with her.
got it.
Yeah. So she was like, if you can, um, try not to leave it on Facebook for too long. And I was like, listen, this is what we're doing with the property. I told her straight up, I said, we're wholesaling it, just so that she could understand that there might be people. I told her straight up, there's going to be people that call you and try to snatch this deal away
Yes,
from you. I said, but this deal is in contract and we don't want to breach that contract. And she was like, well, contracts get broken all the time. And I was like, yeah, but we actually just had a circumstance a few months ago where we had to take somebody to court because they breached our contract and they weren't able to get the property unless we told them that they could.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And, she was just like, all right, well, thank you for the heads up, but just tell him not to call me again. So I never reached out to him. It didn't make any point for me to go out and reach out to him. I told her once again that there were going to be a lot of people reaching out to you, but we already have our deal in contract. I'm going to make sure that this gets done. And then we went from there. So not only that, but in these Facebook groups that I posted it, the only people that began to post in the actual group or under the post, as opposed to DMing me, they were trolls. They were all people
yes,
that, one guy asked me if I was on crack. One guy I said, were they
making
making
math.
were they making crystal meth in the house, which caused the house crystal meth caused the house to blow up, and then I got high off the fumes because of the price that I listed it at. Oh, so we got it under contract for $45,000, but I listed it on marketplace for 75. So there were people in there like, oh, this is ridiculous. These guys are trying to rip people off, and just full of negativity. And at times I was second guessing myself, like, oh, is this a good price? Like, it's a full gut, it's a full tear down. Like, is it worth it? And Elia was there to remind me, like, yo, trust me, we had the same exact circumstance, same
Yeah,
deal, same property, and we
the
did
numbers
very
are there. ARV's 330. Like it's worth 300. So that's why I said even if they buy it at 100, right? Put in another 100, they're all in at 200, and it's still 130,000 or higher because it's fully remodeled, right?
right.
So I was like, bro, I said, no, we have gold. We have gold, I was like,
Yeah,
don't let them play with you. I said, they're gonna keep telling you, and you kept sharing me the comments. I was like, these guys are a joke. They have no idea. And some people will like try to get you like to accept a lower offer by second guessing, right? And
yeah,
bro, that's actually is tied in with the Bible, right? When Jesus got tempted by Satan, he tried to question his identity, right? Like, hey, if you're the son of a man, son of God, then make these stones into bread. Hey, Lenny, if you have a really good deal, man, I mean, like, then accept my 65,000 or 70,000. I'm giving you your asking, right? Like they'll try to second guess you, like, oh, dude, you must be smoking that crack because that's way too high. I'll make you an offer at 50. And then it's like, no, you are a
Yeah,
liar, bro. I got gold. This is a golden goose right here.
yeah. So I really had to overcome that, but I was able to through Ilya's confidence and his experience as well. And the offers just kept coming in. I mean, the first offer was probably like around 60,000, and then from there they went up to 80, 85, and I thought we were gonna seal the deal at like 85. It was over the 80 that the other guy offered. I thought we were locked in there, and then somebody came in at 90, and I'm like, oh crap, this guy Ilya.
Hold. Wait, I'm gonna include that video in there. And then I showed you the video. I was like, bro, hold. You're like, dude, that's 90 grand.
Was second guessing it. I'm like, bro, like, should we just take this? Like, I could use this money right now. Like, let's
Yeah.
be waiting for it. And you're like, you're like,
Oh.
no, just keep holding. And he sent me a video of Braveheart where he's saying, hold, hold, hold. Hold, hold, hold.
Yeah.
Actually, we should upload this to the podcast. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube. This conversation here.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
It's up to you. I know that,
Yeah.
but I think it'll just give more people perspective to how this deal went and the mindset and everything that comes along with it, and how much you've helped me as well.
And I want to
Uh,
ask you this, bro. So if I wasn't in your corner in this negotiation battle, bro, what price would you most likely have accepted an offer?
See, that's the thing. I was just good with $20,000. I was 20K. I'm serious. Like I just, that's just kind of where I needed to be right now in my financial situation to clear me up and free me of some things that I've kind
So
of
that
been tight.
65 offer, like the guy, like the broker or whoever, right? Before the broker, the first offer at 65, you probably would have been like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, because everybody's like, yeah, your average whole deal is this and that. And I was like, oh, if I'm getting 2025, like that's good. And like I said, that's kind of where I needed to be, just financially. Um, but yeah, yeah. If it wasn't you being there and having the experience with that other deal with the same ARV and same
Oh yeah.
circumstance, I would have let it go. So it came down to the point where the last two offers were 108 and then 105, and one was a realtor representing clients. And I was like, Ilya, what do you think? Like, who should we go with? The guy that offered the 108, he wanted to do hard money. It was going to be a hard money loan. And the realtor, it was going to be all cash, but it was 105. So I said, Ilya, what do you think? And you were like, tell her 115 and we're done.
And that's where you lost it. You're like, no, dude. It's like we're gonna scare them off.
So
They're gonna run away. They're gonna think we're crazy.
I was just like, I was like, this is what is crazy. So I said, 115, and the deal is sealed. And that was all through text. And she said, decline accepted.
And then one day I was like, we probably could have got 120.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Crazy. All of this was done over the phone, like through text.
you're in New
Right.
York, the deal's in North Carolina, via text, not even phone calls negotiating, just speaking.
Yep. Yep. So we sent over the contract. for the end buyer to sign,
Yep.
and from there we had the deal tied up.
Yeah. And then the seller, the same realtor at the end, because we're like, hey, look, we know that we're gonna be making money on this thing, like, is your buyer gonna feel a certain way that we're making a good amount of money on this, And she's like, oh, absolutely not. Because we know if like you guys could have probably sold it for like, 20, $30,000 more than we're locking it up now for. So he's getting a great deal. So I was like, wow, cool,
Yeah,
right? Two things, like, wow, cool, they're awesome. They don't care about seeing our assignment, and wow, we actually could have sold it for a little higher. But
right.
at that point, that was the best offer that we had in our, like, in our hand, and
Yep.
sitting and waiting and trying to get greedy. That's how you could cause more damage and lose the deals, right? Because the seller's like, yo, I want to sell quick. We said that we're going to provide a quick service, so at that point, we have to just meet that, right? We have a deadline. Let's meet the deadline and let's move on.
That's right.
Um, we made $70,000.
Like,
It's a blessing.
what was it? 3 weeks? Maybe three
Yeah.
weeks, four the most.
Yeah, exactly. 3 weeks from start to finish, from lead
Yeah,
being born, coming into the system, speaking, negotiating, locking in a contract, and then pushing it out.
right. And we did a double close, which is, I don't know if you want to explain that because you could probably
Yeah.
explain it.
Yes. So the reason we did double close, whenever you're making, a big assignment fee or a big profit, um, it's always a good idea to double close. Yes, you're gonna spend some money, 6, 7,000 on expenses. I think we spent about 6 grand or five and change on double closing it because there is no lender on it. We self-funded. Um, it helps you buy directly with the seller. They're not going to see there because North Carolina is a full disclosure state, meaning that if our end buyer is buying for 115, it's going to show that we're making 70,000 and the seller's getting the 45. And anybody would be like, "Whoa, you're making more money than me, and I'm the owner." Like they would probably feel certain way. But maybe she wouldn't, even because she made $270,000 off the insurance claim, and she's like, I don't care, I'm happy already.
Yep.
That's why she was just willing to, like, let it go and work with you.
Only that, but they told me that they were going to sell it before the fire happened.
Oh wow,
Yep.
there we go. So like the fire did help them out in a way.
Major way.
Yeah,
Major.
because they didn't have to do any renovations, any listings, closing costs, commissions, transfer taxes, waiting, negotiating. Boom, they got paid for the insurance, and then they got paid for us in 3 weeks. you
Yeah.
know yeah.
So, from there, with us getting the contract signed and doing the double closing, the actual transaction, it went pretty smooth. One thing that Ilya taught me is that with these title companies, sometimes they can be very swamped
Oh yeah.
in their work. So you really have to stay on top of what it is that they're doing as far as the paperwork and as far as the money that needs to be deposited and if everything is signed, and just understand if the title search has been done already, and just, I felt like I would be nagging them, but I realized after going through the process how much you have to be on top of these people because they have so much work on their hands. And for us, it's like, oh yeah, we're about to make 70K, but meanwhile they're working on deals that are multi-million-dollar deals, and 70K probably doesn't mean much to them. You
It,
know,
it, it's
so
it's like us as cops, right? Like somebody might come into the precinct and they need like the PAR, they need the police accident report because they need it for the insurance, and the first, like, it's a stack of papers, like, oh, we'll get to it, right? But unless they're on top of, like, yo, officers are ready, is it ready? Oh yeah, it's ready here. They want to get you out of their hair. Same thing with the title company. You're just a number, you're just a file, and if you're not bugging them, they'll get to it eventually.
right, right. That's a good analysis. That's a good
Yeah.
comparison.
Yep. No.
So,
Yep.
staying on top of them and getting everything done as it should be. We were supposed to close on a Tuesday, but we ended
Yep.
up closing on a Friday, and then the money. So here's another part of the story where I like my patience was definitely tested. So the wire for the deal that everybody received, the seller, the keys for the end buyer, they received the property. Ilya, he received his cut.
Yeah.
Me, I didn't get my wire until yesterday when everybody else got their wire on Monday.
Monday
And I
morning, like 11 o'clock, we already got paid. I
right,
called you celebrating. I was like, "Oh, let's go! You got your big check." And you're like, "No, bro, nothing's here. Nothing's
yeah,
here."
we both met with Chase. He received his wire at like 1 p.m. I was ready to celebrate with him. I checked my account right before he called. Nothing was there. And I'm just like, yo, what the heck? So it turns out that I opened up a new bank account. And being that I opened up a new bank account and I haven't received a wire that large, they were reviewing it. So I had to go through loopholes, or they had to verify with the sender's bank that the transaction was legit and receive authorization. And that was all on Monday. So then Tuesday comes and they're saying that they said that it was still under review. So I'm checking my account like every 15 minutes, like what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And the bank that sent it verified that it was legit. And Chase Bank, when we called them, they said, all right, it's been verified. They still have it under review. And I'm like, okay, when is it going to be? When's the review going to be done? And they kept saying by the end of the business day, by the end of the business day. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll be patient. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to get crazy with it. But I still called like 5 or 6 times just to see if there were any
Yeah,
updates and figure out what was going on. So it got to about 4:40 and I was fed up and I was like, well, you guys said the end of the business day and it's still not there. So at that point, I just had to get very assertive and say, this is unacceptable. You're leading me on. You said it'll be done by the end of the business day. I don't get it. And then she said, you know what, hold on. I'm gonna see if I could get them to expedite it. And after me making a stink and having to yell a little bit and raise my voice, they released it, and then I had to wait a couple minutes to get the wire. And Ilya, you made a great analogy when it comes down to that with being a police officer.
yeah, exactly. And I said, I don't understand why people have to wait for somebody to get upset, to get angry in order to serve them, right? Like when we come into a conversation with somebody, we're bringing love and happiness in our voice and we're asking politely, and people seem to kind of forget it. And I said, bro, I said, remember when we were cops, sometimes the crazy loud prisoner is the one that would get all the attention. You would take him to the bathroom, you give him chip, you give him some food, right? And then the nice guy who asked you, you forget. And I was like, I'm guilty of it too. Like, I'm like, yo, this guy did ask me to use the bathroom. I forgot about it, right? But sometimes we have to make some noise to remind these people, like, yo, we're here. Like, take care of us too, you know?
Right, exactly. So that's what I had to do. And then once I got it, I called up Ilya and we just went crazy. So
Yo, let's go, bro.
yeah,
Congratulations, man.
man, thank
First
you.
big deal.
First big
That's
deal.
yeah.
And I asked for God to send me a sign, and He made it very clear. Like, this is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to build. We need to build with Ilya and
Yeah.
any other police officers to know that this is possible. You start at part time and you can parlay into it. Like I started part time, even though I was working with other people that sucked. Um, but I learned a lot. Even though I complain about the process and who I work with, I did learn a lot. Um, Not necessarily from them, but just from the experience.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the hardships because it has taught me many lessons I could apply to the future to make this very fruitful and profitable and to help other.
Amazing. Exactly, exactly. So now the seller sold her house. You spoke with her. She was excited, right? So you provided a good service. She was thrilled from what you told me, and she paid off her car, right? She said, "Oh, I got the money. I paid off my car."
Yep.
So yeah, so she was pumped, dude. So when people are like, "Oh, wholesaling, you're scamming people," no, you're providing a service. At the end of the day, they have to make the decision. You're providing them a service. Yes, you could list it right with an agent. You have to do this, and that, or you just go with us and we get it done. In 3 weeks.
Yep.
Um,
Issues.
and to be honest, if the title company didn't drop the ball and all those issues, we would have closed in 2 weeks. We would have closed the week before.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, man, I that and those but it was a lesson once again, like, wow, like a title company could really make so many mistakes, and miss so many documents and only ask for things last minute? And I'm like, yes, they do it all the time because they're swamped, right? And like PAA is trying to put in the 61. You're like, oh, is that one in yet? They're like, oh no, we need corrections, and need this, that, but nobody told me, right? So it's just like that, guys. Like, just no. Yes, they're a professional company, but they're human. They make mistakes, and being them on top, right? Control the deal, control the deal, control the deal. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, you had to reach out to the supervisor, just like sometimes people might have to ask for the sergeant, right?
That's exactly. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
Now, I actually want, because people talk and they don't show, right? Like, I want to share. I don't, we do not like to brag, right? It's not biblical, but we do want people to understand what's real, right? When somebody told me like, yo, I made 5 grand off a wholesale, I said, how? Like, right? But like when you see it, you're like, whoa, well, that's tangible. Now I can see it, means I can fight towards that dream, towards that goal, and reach it and grab it, right? You could only, a lot of times, like people say, like you could only make what you can imagine, right? Or like if you're like, no way I could be a millionaire, you're always gonna be broke, right? So let me share the screen here. I think people are gonna get. We want people to get hyped up. We want people to know. It's not sharing yet, is it? No.
no,
Okay. So here we go. This is real. This is possible, and the only thing that's stopping it is you not taking action, not doing right what the things you should be doing.
good stuff.
Yeah. Let's
It's,
go.
I couldn't even sleep well last night. Like
Really?
better the night where I was concerned about the wire than I slept once I actually received the wire because
That's so funny.
I was just so like in shock of how fluid this went and the amount. I try not to put like I tend not to put that much emphasis on money. Like I see money as a tool.
Of
But
course.
I would really just have to say it was excitement and just God showing me his glory.
Yeah. Yep. You asked for a sign. You said, God, am I on the right path? Is this it? You feel like giving up. You're already like, you feel like you're failing, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, hang on. Boom. Right?
Yeah.
Blessed you with a hot lead. And it wasn't a hot lead, honestly. We thought it was like a dead lead. But if you really dig deeper and ask the right questions,
Fire lead.
fire lead. Yeah, literally fire. The house was on fire. And, when you called me, I was like, I said, all right. But then, like, what's she asking? 70. I said, well, wait, 70 is you going to listen for 70? That's pretty good. We can get it lower, as investors. And she don't have to pay commission closing, and taxes and all that stuff. I said, we can definitely get this thing done. And there it is. Now you guys see the end results.
Yeah, man. So it just gives me the confidence once again to just go full force at this and don't let up. And
Yeah.
anybody about it, you have the resources, you have the help. I mean, Ilya, he's the master here. He's very busy, but if he gets overwhelmed, you can reach out to me.
Yeah.
I can help you where I can as well. And yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. So, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, hearing this out, learning from it, right? And getting excited and taking action. The whole point of this is to share what's possible, because when we were cops, we didn't know what was cop. And you don't have to be a cop. One of my friends yesterday was on a live with us. He was a dog walker, but he's tired of, dealing with the winters and walking with dogs in the winter in Manhattan. And people, if they see a vision and they want to start their own business and try it out, real estate is the best vehicle to get you started and to have great success on it. Mhm.
yeah. And we started this call just so that you could keep it amongst your coaching program. But
Yeah,
I said if you want to share it, do you want to share your Instagram or where people can find you so that
that's for sure. Yeah, I respond the quickest. So it's at the investor cop is my Instagram. The investor cop, right? I was a cop. I was an investor. Uh, and I just kept the name. All right. So reach out to me, send me a DM, or you could always send me an email too, right? But I think that Instagram is probably the easiest way, to be honest. You
Yeah,
might get lost in the junk mail, like the title company did with with our deal.
yeah. And I wound up putting it on one of your platforms. Mine is at Purpose Over Pension on
Yeah,
this. Best way to reach me.
that's right. That's right. So like we're also focusing on starting a community, right?
That's
With
right.
That's right. The finest purpose where we are uniting to do streams like this, to make videos like this for people who are interested, people who want to learn and grow in business. Uh, we're gonna focus more on real estate because that's what we know. That's what we do. Like Lenny had, other businesses. I had other businesses, but in reality, real estate is that vehicle where it's life-changing transactions. It's not like, oh, I made $500 today. Great, it's gonna be gone by tomorrow. But if you make 30,000, 40,000, 70,000, that's gonna change your life for sure.
I don't want people getting ripped off and taken advantage of like I did in the past. And,
Yeah.
I'm going to be giving a little bit more in-depth detail on that story down the line. I want to have this community be able to trust one another and have valuable resources that are in law enforcement.
Yes.
We can, and we will vet these people that come into this community that offer their services, whether they're professional flippers or they're good at raising private capital. The list goes on. They will be vetted, and we will make sure that they're trustworthy because we don't want to let anybody into this community that's gonna snake you like I've been snaked in the past. And that's my motivation because I
Yeah.
have the platform of a pension, and then I have Ilya here who is a master at wholesaling. So it just makes sense, and we're both from the job. So we want to be able to protect others that are on the job as well. We're used to being the protectors, but when it came down to me getting into wholesaling and getting into business, I wasn't savvy at it. So I kind of took the same. I took the approach in trusting people and letting my guard down. Shouldn't um because which I shouldn't have because I have the training as a police officer. I was a police officer to know how easy it is to rip people off, right?
Yeah.
But emotions get into it. I let my hunger for money get into it and my greed overcome my thought process and my logic. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else that's in law enforcement that's trying to make a living, an outside living for their family and to build a business to change generations to come.
That's right. That's right. That's the whole purpose of of this community, is that we already have the brotherhood, right? Of being cops, watching each other's back when we're in the streets. Now we need to watch each other's back here in business, right? And uplift one another and edify one another in order to level up. If you see that this is something that interests you, right? Like we also say, listen, we need cops, dude. There's cops who were like born, and you and I spoke about this yesterday. It's like, bro, there's people like that dude's a cop, man. Like I look up like this dude, he's a crime fighter. Like he is born to catch bad guys, and stop crimes. And obviously, if we had no law enforcement, this place would fall apart. So we're not trying to take away anything from cops and say anything bad about cops. We were cops, We're trying to educate cops on another level because some cops, get into the job not because it was their first career choice, but because they got called for the academy, and they said, you know what, I never made it as a technician, I never made it as a contractor, flipper, whatever. So they go into there. And some people want to start a business, great. Other cops will do 20 years or plus. That's even better because we need cops.
That's right. That's right. Good talk, man.
Good talk.
Back and reflect on how this whole process went and give thanks to God. I give thanks to you, man.
Amen. Amen. God bless, man. Good talking to you. And yeah, let's catch up. God bless everybody. Peace out.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, comment, and share, and I will see you on the next one.
Perp in custody. custody for the 31. Perp in custody.